and welcome to another episode of the Rhobin Knits podcast. Before I forget, my name is Rhoda. I live in Canada. I live with my husband Sam, and this is episode number 8. It's just been 2 weeks, but it feels like a long time, and I feel like I have a lot to share, but at the same time I feel like I don't have enough to share. But I felt this is still a good time to sit down, record an episode, talk about all the projects that I've been working on, show where I am at, what are my thoughts about everything I'm working on right now, and take it from there. So it could be a well-documented progress as well. The last few weeks have been busy. It's getting warmer. The sun is out a little longer, so we've been going for long walks. We've been doing a lot more outdoor activities, so I've had less knitting time, which is fine. I did not have a lot of spring knitting plans anyway. I had a limited number and a couple of projects with things that I brought in from the last season. So while I still intend to finish all of them, I've been taking my knitting a lot more slower. I've been enjoying what I've been doing. This has just been fun. The last few weeks have just been fun because I feel like I found a balance between knitting and doing other activities instead of just sitting and knitting all the time. I do appreciate it. I appreciate the time I have for knitting, but just having better weather, being able to go out more has helped a lot with being more cheerful, just feeling a little more healthy and being more active, and just having a more content life. So with that, I'll start talking about my first finished object. I am not wearing it. Oh, by the way, I am not wearing a knit today, and oh no, but I'm not wearing a knit today because it's really sunshiny and warm, and I just wanted to feel comfortable. So I'm just wearing something that I got from back home. This is just a simple summer dress from India, and I'm just wearing that. So back to the first finished object. This is a modification of the Perfect Knit Tee by Caitlin Barthold. This is what it looks like. So the last time I spoke, I'm trying to get the bottom hem lined up. This is what it looks like. So the last time I spoke, I was almost finishing it. I think I just had the sleeves to work on, but I finally finished it. I wore it yesterday. That was another reason I didn't wear it today, because I wore it yesterday. We went on a very long walk, and I feel it's already due a wash because I've eaten wearing it. The walk was pretty long, and even though the weather was a little crisp, because the walk was long and the sun was really bright, I did sweat into it a little more. So I did not feel like wearing it again today or wear it again till I've given it a wash. I'm very comfortable washing it, and I'll tell you a little about the yarn. So the yarn that was suggested is Lion Brand Kubo. I've got my notes down here, so I can process my thoughts. So the suggested yarn for this project is Lion Brand Kubo, but I did not use that because I had this yarn already in stash. This is Hobie's soft bamboo. It's in the fingering weight, so it's called fine. They also have a double, like the DK weight. Now, holding it double, the total weight of this garment came up to exactly 349 grams, which would mean 7 balls of this yarn. I remember when I bought it, I bought 10 balls, but I used one for a shawl I made. So this is with the remaining. I do have 1.5 balls left. I'm very conflicted about this yarn. This yarn, when I was working on it, I kind of disliked it and I swore I would never use it again. But once I've blocked it and worn it, I really like how this feels, and I really like how easy it is to maintain it or take care of it. So this yarn is 70% bamboo, 23% cotton, and 7% acrylic. This is in the colorway, it's just called undyed or cream. It's one of the original colorways. And I really like it because it's not stark white, it's creamy, but it's not too yellow as well. It's got a very good balance. And this yarn, when I was working on it, felt very uncomfortable to work on because it's very slippery, it's very splitty. For a fingering weight yarn, this is still made with at least 8 strands of thread, and so every time I knit I had to make sure I was catching all of the strands because otherwise they were having funny loops. I think there's one here. I don't know if you could see. It's right here. So it was making funny loops. I can't find anymore because I did, every time I saw it I went back and tried to catch all of the threads, so it was a little uncomfortable to be knitting on. I tried bamboo needles. I did not like it any better, so I just moved back to metal needles because I'm anyway comfortable with it. I have used this yarn before to make my cumulus blouse, but that was just one strand of fingering weight yarn and it seemed okay, but holding it double, it seemed even more complicated. So I would suggest if you're using this yarn, just pick the DK one. While the knitting process is tedious, I will admit it, wearing it, blocking even the stitches, even though I felt it was cotton and I wasn't sure if blocking is going to help even the stitches, but it did even it out really well. I know I can also iron this, maybe not on high heat, but really low heat I can iron it. If you are looking to make something that's dressier, you could definitely use this yarn. So like I was saying, the knitting process, it is difficult while using this yarn, but blocking, wearing, it is so comfortable. It's cooling, it's flowy, it's drapey without actually losing its form. And I really like it. So the main reason that I actually wanted something like this, and I had made a lot of modifications, is to actually wear it on top of my summer dresses. Some of them are very strappy, and while I'm not uncomfortable wearing it, I just feel sometimes when it's breezy or it gets cold, and I feel the weather is unpredictable. The outdoors could be sometimes really warm. You move into the house, the AC, the air conditioning is really high, and so it's cold inside. Sometimes it could be warm outside, but then when it's breezy or windy, it could really get chill. So it's very complicated and so layering is my way to go for spring, and I just wanted this as a layering piece over my summer dresses. And I'll put a picture of me wearing it over my summer dress, and I enjoyed it. It was cropped, and that was the intention. I also wanted very flowy, breezy sleeves. It did make it look very oversized, but I was okay with it because this is still a comfort wear for me. It wasn't supposed to be a dressy wear, so I was okay with it. Now the pattern I used for this, I used the Perfect Knit Tee by Caitlin Barthold as a direction to make this outfit, but make this garment, but I actually did not follow it to the T. I used the stitch counts, but when it came to how many repeats I had to do on the raglan, for example, or how long I wanted the sleeves, what needle size to use, I did make a lot of modifications. So I'll start with the edgings. This pattern actually has I-cord edging, and I do like it on some garments, but I feel it gives a very unfinished look. And as a new knitter, I wanted to have the ribbing just to make sure it was a clean, it looked finished to me with the ribbing, and so I decided to do the ribbing. Now this is a pattern I have knit before for somebody else, and I knitted in size 3 with the size 4 needles, which are actually recommended. The US size 6 4mm needles, which are the recommended needles. But for this, apart from the ribbing, I also increased the needle size. I went up to size 5. The garment size I would have picked to knit for me would have been size 4, but I went down a size. I went down to size 3 because I knew that this is going to be an oversized garment since I went up 2 needle sizes. And it also helped me get a very flowy drapey fabric, which is again the intention of this garment. Also, I had used this yarn 2 different times for two different projects, and I did not like either of them, because either I used it just as a fingering weight yarn, or I held it double as a DK weight, but I used the 4mm needle and I did not like the fabric at all. So I knew I have to go up a couple of needle sizes for me to like the fabric. I tried the swatch, it was good, and so I stuck to it, and when I looked at the pattern, I went down to size 3. The raglan increases, I followed the pattern, but I think I cut down. I did not go all the way as many raglan increases as the pattern suggested. I made it 1 or 2 raglans short, and I still feel it's long enough to fit me very, very comfortably. And I added a few extra stitches to the underarm, which I feel in hindsight I should not have done, because it was already going to be an oversized garment. So what that did was it made my sleeves really, really large. I always appreciate larger sleeve garments because I do have bulkier arms, and every time I work out I tend to put on muscle instead of I would have thought, oh, I'm gonna lose fat and have slender arms, but I put on muscle, and but I do feel a lot more stronger. So now I've gotten comfortable with how my arms look and feel. So when it comes to knitwear, and I know that I can knit garments to fit me, my size, based on what I like, I've been enjoying that. So I decided I usually do an extra few stitches in the underarms, and I did that for this garment too, but in hindsight I feel I shouldn't have done it because it was already an oversized garment. And I just I used the decrease method that was given for the Oon sweater, because I liked how the decreases on the underarm side, it ran all over the inside of the arm, and it had 2 stitches of just stockinette going, and then the decreases were happening on either side. I found that very fascinating, very neat, and so I followed the same instructions, and I just decreased for every 8 stitches until I kind of ran out of yarn. And I just made sure that I did not bind off. I started off the next sleeve. I did that as well, and when I knew I had enough yarn to do the ribbing, I bound off for both the sides and closed it with the ribbing. And so the ribbing is not that long. It was also intentional because I did not want the attention to go onto this. It's just that my spring dress, I wanted this to be a second layer, so I did not want all the attention to go to this garment, but to still be on the dress and just have this as a layering piece. This was a garment I experimented on. I'm happy with the results, and I know I'm gonna get a lot of views. So that is the Perfect Knit Tee by Caitlin Bartol. I just want to quickly talk about how much this yarn cost. Now, if you go to the Hobbii website and you look up this yarn, you would see that it is priced very, very differently. In fact, all of Hobbie's yarns are priced that way. If you buy a single ball of yarn, it's going to cost you something, and if you buy a bundle of 5, it's going to cost you something else. A bundle of 7, it's going to cost you something else, and so on. And so for this yarn, if I was purchasing a single ball of yarn, it would have cost me $8.40 and 40 cents, and when I'm talking about the dollars, it's Canadian dollars. But I used exactly 7 balls of yarn for this. I had purchased this yarn about 3 years ago, so I have no idea. I know I purchased the 10 bundle pack, but I did not know how much it actually cost down to the cent. So I went up, looked at the website this morning, and put together the price. So for the 7 balls of yarn that I used, if I was purchasing from Hobbii today, it would have cost me $49.16. Would I pay that much for a bamboo cotton acrylic sweater or a top that I would purchase in store? I highly doubt it, but for something I knit, I think it's okay. If you are following the pattern as written, I would still say it would be a good idea. Like I said, I've done this pattern before, and I really, really enjoyed working on the pattern. I want to move on to my works in progress. This is my April cardigan, and I showed this last time, and when I showed this last time, I had not gotten much done. I mean, I had gotten to the point of where I was about to split for sleeves, but that's where I had stopped. So I put a marker when I finished recording, and this is where I am at. I am at a place actually where I can start the ribbing after I knit for another inch or so. I'm at a point where I've been trying this on so much to see if the length is okay, or I feel I also need to block it before I start the ribbing just to make sure it does not become too long. And so I have moved it on to a longer cord, and I've been working on it. This has been a pleasant, mindless knit, and I've not been in a rush to finish it. So this is sitting, taking its time, and it's really slow. It is divided into 3 different parts, and it was so interesting to start off because you have so much to do. You do the first increases, and then you do the second set, and then you do the raglans, and it was wonderful. And all the time you're working, you're making sure you're looking at the neck band, the neckline, sorry, not the neck band. And it was really fun to work on this garment. I am hoping, because it's the April cardigan, I want to try and finish it before April's over. I am also thinking if I should do the double knit button band instead of the 1x1 button or the 2x2 button band. I'm not very sure. I should look up at the pattern again. I want to make that modification for sure, because I have noticed that everybody who knit the April cardigan the first time usually did the ribbed button band that was suggested in the pattern, and they've always gone back, remade it, made a second cardigan maybe, and did a double button band. And so I want to start off with just making it making a double button band, double knit button band. I am learning to say the phrases. And that way it's gonna be a more cleaner finish, more versatile wear, more professional looking, and I am also going to be able to learn a new skill, because I've done the ribbing once now with the Felix cardigan, and so I'm thinking the double knit button band would be something new to learn and experiment with. With that being said, while I do want to finish it in April, I'm not gonna try and rush, because I've been enjoying my knitting more because I've been knitting less. I've not been able to knit as much as I used to, and I want to appreciate that process, continue it, and not rush on anything that I'm actually doing. This is the work on progress that I'm doing for myself, but other than that, there have been test knits that I've been doing. So the first one I'll talk about is the cable shawl. This is a test knit I've been doing for John Arvin Textiles. This shawl is very fascinating. I'll start by saying that it is supposed to look like a semi-tended garden. So it's got lace and cables on the edge, and then it's got the rest of the shawl. How you work the shawl is basically you start working on the edge. So you cast on at the bottom. The border is rolling in itself, and so I'm trying to just hold it up. And then you work the entire border, and once that is done, you pick up on the inside. Yeah, you pick up on this side, and then you knit the rest of this shawl. What I liked about the shawl when I actually saw it was that it was semicircle in shape. I don't know if there is another word you use for shawls, but it's not a triangular shawl, and I do not want triangular shawls anymore. And I also like the idea of it being a semi-tended garden, which is how we all start spring, and then we start preparing our garden for the summer. And so I really like the idea of knitting this. But this has been extremely challenging. When I say extremely challenging, I enjoyed the cable, I enjoyed the lace work. It's absolutely okay. It's been something that you have to give your 100% attention to, which is okay. But the challenging part is if you look at the cable, this side is the cable and this side is the lace. I'm hoping it would open more with blocking. So if you look at both the sides, they do not have a similar chart that you can follow. So the cable part is 8 row repeat, and the lace part is a 14 row repeat. So you cannot have the chart side by side and keep following it, because when you would have finished the cable portion, the 8 row repeat is already done, but you are still working on the lace repeat of 14 rows. And by the time you finish the 14th row, you are already repeating the cable portion, and you would be, what's 14 minus 8? Oh, you would be on the 6th row of the cable. So it's not been intuitive at all, and it was even difficult if I was looking at the chart and following, because it's also my first time. Yeah, this is my first time doing intricate lace like this. So it had been, in the beginning especially, it was very, very difficult to read my knitting. And so you cannot put this down, take it up, and know that this is, I would know what row of the cable portion I'm working on, but I would never know what portion of the lace part I'm working on unless I counted the stitches and I knew this many stitches were on. So I decided to make this as simple as possible for me and copied the chart onto an Excel spreadsheet. Not really copied, I had to actually copy paste the symbols and make sure it didn't automatically format to a formula, and it took a lot of work, but once that was done, I copy pasted it until I knew that okay, this much I could follow. So every line I finish, I just mark it at a different color. I'll see if I can post a fast forwarded version of it so the pattern is not really clear, but you can at least see the process I'm following. And it's been helpful. It was the only way I got this much done, and I have now put it on hold because I needed both the cord and the needles to work on something else, and so I have taken it out and I've started working on something else. I will go back to this once I finish the other project. It's the next project that I'm going to talk about. I had initially started this project using the leftovers of my spring fling sweater, which was the Inram and Knitpicks palette yarns held together because this is the DK weight pattern. But I decided to move on to good wool because when I started, it was very complicated. I had to hold two strands of thread together and then work the cable, work the lace, and follow a chart. It was too complicated, so I decided to make it simple for me. Also, with it being spring, I wanted to pick a spring summer colors. I wanted to wear this. I wanted to use this to drape around myself in the evenings. And so I wanted a nice spring summer color, which is why I went with this. Now this is the colorway Fern Green. This is Purl Soho's Good Wool, and they say it is DK. Actually on their site they say sport to light worsted, but so it's supposed to mean DK is what I would think, and usually a lot of patterns that this is listed under is DK. But when I gauge swatched for this, I realized this is more of a sport weight yarn and not a DK yarn. So for the lace work and the cable work, the needle size recommended for this pattern was 2.75. I had to go up a needle size to meet my gauge swatch, and so I've been working this on 3mm needles. Once I finish this, I have to move on to the body of the shawl, and that would have been 3.75mm needles, but now I know I'm going to be working on 4mm needles. Oh, another interesting thing is once this is over and I work on the body of the shawl, the body of the shawl is made using mosaic knitting, and so the contrast color is going to be this. This is the same, it is Purl Soho Good Wool, and it is going to be undyed. This is a color, this is just undyed, it's not a color. And so what comments I have so far is that I wouldn't suggest this to a beginner knitter. And I want to be cautious when saying that because there are patterns that people would have asked me not to start off with until I had more experience knitting. But starting off with those patterns, even if it was a garment pattern, even if it was a pattern that I had to read and follow and not just a video tutorial, it has challenged me and it has made me grow. If I saw this to be marked as intermediate to advanced or something, I would have never picked this pattern, but it did not have any suggestion that way, which is why I picked it. And I am a fairly beginner knitter, but I was able to do this. It just I had to go out of my comfort zone, and I had to do a little groundwork like the Excel sheet before starting this, but it was possible. So I wouldn't say do not try it, but I would say read enough of the pattern before you go in to try this. This test knit is due by May 6th. It's April 15th as of today when I'm recording this. So I'm hoping to pick this up again tomorrow or day after, and then work on this until I finish the border at least, and then I know the rest of the shawl would be a lot more quicker. So this is due by May 6th. And the pattern will probably be out after. Like I said, this is a test knit I've been doing for John Arbon Textiles, so I think they would be coming up with a new line of yarn along with all of these patterns that are coming out. This is just one of the patterns that a lot of test knitters are working on. There is a vest pattern, there's a cowl pattern, there is a sweater pattern, and I think there's a sock, there's a beret. So there's quite a lot going on with this set of new patterns that are coming out. So I'd of course let you know, but I would also suggest you keep an eye open for whenever the pattern is released. The next one is a test knit as well, and it's living in another tote bag. I realized as I started knitting that I really did not appreciate project bags. I know it's controversial, but I just feel tote bags are a lot more easier to carry around. I don't have to be careful. So unless I am actually making a project bag, I don't think I would want to purchase one or invest in one, but that could change. So this is my opinion as of now. Now this is another test knit. This was the test knit I was most excited for. This is in fact due only for I think May 15th, but I'm gonna be done by today. And I started it last Monday, so it's been on my needles for 6 days, but I haven't knit anything else. I've just been knitting on this, which is why it has gone so quickly. Now this is called the Moment Tee, and this is by Lily Kate Franz. It's a very pretty striped t-shirt, and the reason I liked it is because it's not just any regular stripes. I like how it's broken up, so there's 2 rows of one color, there's 2 rows of another, and then you repeat that thrice, and then there is a 10-row break for the main color to really shine, and then you start with your contrast colors again. I also like the neckline details. If you look at this, it's unfinished, and I had purposely left it that way because I wanted to show it on the podcast before sewing it down. So you start off with this, and I don't want to give too much away of the pattern. The collar actually does not have ribbing, so you start off with this, and then at the end we've got to sew this down. We've got to, I'll probably whip stitch it, and so if you look at this, you would see the edge, you would see the contrast color at the edge, but it's not really gonna be a stripe over here, and I really like that effect. I'm expecting that to be at the sleeve as well. The pattern does say that. So the neck and the sleeve are done this way, and it is folded. It's just simple stockinette, and it's folded and stitched, no ribbing on the sleeve and the neckline. And other thing I really liked about this pattern, because like I said with my arms, and then if there's ribbing on the arms, that could make that edge a little too snug. It is very uncomfortable, so I really like the idea of doing this. The bottom though has ribbing, and the pattern says that it is because if you are going to fold and stitch it, it actually makes the t-shirt flare up at the bottom, and it does not give a very well finished look. And so the bottom of this is ribbing, but the rest of it is folded and stitched, and I really like that. The yarn that Lily Kate Franz actually used for this was Sandnes Garn Duo, and from my understanding, it is a DK weight yarn. It is a little on the heavier, it's a thicker yarn, and it's a mix of wool and cotton. So I decided, I did have Sandnes Garn in my stash, but it's Tin Line. And I already have another project in mind for it, and I did not want to use up that yarn for this. Also, the other project I have in mind is a striped pattern, and so I did not want to have two yellow and cream striped tees. So I looked at my stash, I saw what I had, and I had about 5 balls of Knitpicks Gloss in the colorway River Rock, which is my main color, and I had some leftover yarn, which is about 2 balls of this colorway, the contrast colorway, which is the color Velveteen. And so I swatched, and I liked how it looked. My original idea was to put the blue along with a silver yarn that they have. It's the colorway Robot, and I decided not to do that. What I realized with the Knitpicks Gloss is that they do not have enough contrast in them. All of them have the same intensity of color, so when you move them to black and white, if let's say this, you actually change the colorway to black and white, you wouldn't see too much contrast between the pink and the blue. And so when I did a swatch, I wish I had kept the swatch to show you. When I did a swatch, and it was blue in the silver colorway, the gray colorway, it wasn't really appealing. It felt very dull, but with the pink, it seemed to add more character to the fabric. So I decided to go with the pink and the blue, which is a little out of what I would have normally thought. I mean, when it comes to colors, I'm not really creative, and so this I felt was a win in the books for me. And especially with the pink peeking out of the edges of the collar, and the sleeve hem, the sleeves, and then not the hem. No, the hem does not have a contrast color, but just the collar and the sleeves. I find it very fascinating, and I'm so excited to get this done. So I am now at the ribbing. I have maybe about 8 more rounds to go before I bind off, and then I move on to the sleeves. The sleeves are short sleeves, so I'm hoping I'd get it done by today. I can block it, and I want to wear it this weekend. That's my goal for this. I'll put it back in the project yarn where it belongs. Oh, I forgot. This is a DK weight yarn, and the needle size used is 3.7 millimeter needles. This was another reason why I put this on hold until I finished this, and then I wanted to until I finished the moment tee, and then I wanted to move back to that because the needle size recommended for the body of the shawl was 3.75, and the needle size recommended for this was 3.75, and I had already met gauge with this, so I wanted to go finish this and then go back to that, so I don't have to worry about needing that needles again for this anytime soon. The test knit process has been very different with both. Funnily enough, both the John Arbin and the Moment Tee test knits have been happening on Slack, and so I've been moving back and forth between channels to see what's the update, if there's anything new. With the Moment Tee in particular, I started it a little later than a lot of people, and it's a very quick knit. I saw there were people who finished in 3 days, and it kind of gave me a little anxiety that everyone was finishing their knits and I hadn't even started. And so I paused the other one, I started this. I also knew it was DK weight, larger needles. It's going to be, I mean, 3.75, but it was larger than my other project, and so I felt this was going to finish faster. And with stripes, generally things go a lot faster, so I've been very excited about working on this. With people who finished it earlier, they already had comments, they had corrections that had to be made, and by the time I started, the version 2 of the pattern was already out. And so for me, it has been very, very easy to knit on. I did not find anything in the pattern that was either difficult to read or difficult to understand. The pattern is very simple, and you do not have to worry about getting the stripes aligned or look at a method to do jogless stripes, because the pattern, I don't want to give away again too much of the pattern, but the pattern is made in such a way that it just takes care of everything. Both the test knits, people have been very active on Slack. People have been posting pictures, sharing swatches, and it's been very inspiring. I've never been part of a test knit like that, so it was fascinating for sure. I will just move on quickly to knitting plans. So I've applied for 2 different test knits. One was the Tulsa Tank by Rebecca Clow. I did not get accepted for that. The other one was again another tank by Alicia Plumbers, and I would probably get picked for that, I'm hoping. I haven't heard back yet, but I am gonna keep my ears and always open to make sure I see, to just check my emails and everything to make sure I know if I'm picked. With the last 2 test knits, I've been working on Slack with Alicia. The difference was she did the call on Ravelry, and I've never actually messaged anybody on Ravelry before. Only the last 2 weeks somebody had messaged me on Ravelry about a question with my Felix cardigan, but otherwise no one has ever messaged me on Ravelry other than just the pattern updates that we would normally get. And so it was different messaging somebody on Ravelry. Ravelry also makes me feel like I'm working on a website that is a little ancient, but it works absolutely fine, and I'm just waiting to get a response. I do have one acquisition, though I'm not going to be working on that until I finish my John Arbin test knit and my April cardigan, but I do have the yarn and I want to share with you. This is Drops Daisy, and it's in the colorway parrot green. It just says color 25, but on the website it said it was parrot green, and this is 100% extra fine merino wool. I got about 8 balls of this yarn. This is for the Stockholm sweater by Petite Knit. This is going to be a gift knit, and the receiver asked me to make a sweater in this particular color, so I'm excited to get started. I love how it feels, and this came in an organza bag. I kind of do not like the feel of this bag because it's very irritating to the fingertips, but I know it's gonna keep the yarn safe until I start working on it, and I've left it that way for now. I got this yarn from Wool Warehouse in the UK, and I found them to have a lot more options of affordable yarn. Shipping was simpler, and it just felt right to order from them, and I got the yarn a lot more faster than I would get if I ordered from the US maybe. And it just made me think about, if I've been wanting to try different yarns. I've always worked with superwash yarn so far because my first introduction to yarns was acrylic and superwash, and I do enjoy working with those yarns. It's easy to make gift knits out of them. I know it's going to be easier for people to take care of it and not be very precious with the knits, so I'm going to continue using acrylic and superwash for those purposes for sure, but I did want to try different yarns. And I was looking at the Wool Warehouse website, and it just felt so good to have access to all of these yarns that I felt I would never get here. Drops, for example, is very difficult. Like, the entire range is very difficult to get in Canada. There's only one yarn store that I've been to where I did see Drops, and it was just one, I think it was Drops Alpaca. It was just one line of Drops, so it was nice to see, to have access to all of these yarns, more affordable and economical. So I am going to be ordering from there for sure if I need anything more. I feel for the Stockholm pullover, I did order 8 balls of yarn, but I feel it's going to fall on the shorter side, and I am going to be plain yarn chicken. I think I'm just going to be ordering more because the person I'm knitting for is, again, a very tall person. It's going to be a smaller size, but I know I'll have to knit the body of the sweater a little longer and the sleeves. I have planned modifications for the Stockholm sweater as well, so it's going to be a lot of work, a lot of yarn, and I may end up ordering from there again. And this is the first time I'm even looking at dye lots to make sure the dye lots match and things like that. It's a whole different experience, and I've been loving it. So that's about my Stockholm sweater. It's coming up and I like the yarn. Apart from that, like I said, life has been very busy lately. A good busy. Work has been very satisfying, and I think perspective just changes with seasons. It's weird. Once the sun's out, I just feel more joyful, more thankful, more content. And I am dreading when the clocks will change in November again and things go dark, and I'm hoping to carry on light in my heart at least into winter. With that, I want to say a goodbye. Thank you for letting me give you company and staying along with me as I chatted about my projects, and I hope to see you soon. Happy knitting!